Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we spotlight trailblazers and breakthrough stories from the industrial, manufacturing, and B2B sectors. I'm your host, Dr. Leanne Aguilar. In this episode, we're diving into the future of clean energy innovation with Guy Babbitt, PhD, the co-founder and CEO of CZERO, a mechanical engineering services firm at the cutting edge of energy technology. With a mission rooted in reducing energy consumption, improving efficiency, and fighting climate change, CZERO helps clients take bold energy concepts from idea to prototype. Whether it's renewables, fossil fuels, or industrial decarbonization, CZERO's early-stage R&D touches almost every corner of the energy sector. Today, we'll explore Guy's path to founding CZERO, the role his team plays in accelerating the clean energy transition, and the kinds of bold partnerships that are turning visionary ideas into scalable, sustainable technologies. Guy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Glad to be here.
You're welcome. So to get started, I just want to know a little bit about your journey. What inspired you to found CZERO, and what need in the energy sector were you determined to address?
Sure. I've been a passionate environmentalist, I would say, since I was a little kid. But I also like to consider myself a pragmatic environmentalist in that we're really interested in things that can actually affect change and everything. So I originally started my engineering career working for General Motors, which all my environmental friends couldn't understand how I would work for an auto company in the 1980s if I cared about the environment. To me, there's like, where can I have more change, right? You know, and that was great. I got to work on some early projects that were increasing vehicle efficiency and reducing emissions and everything. So that's where I started out. And then as I went further on in my career, I worked on other projects related. And then in 2007, Chris Turner and I decided that we really wanted to just, double down and go all in on starting a company that could be addressing these needs.
Wonderful. And I really love the story behind your name. CZERO really reflects your values. Can you share a little bit more about how that name came to be and what it means to your mission?
So CZERO is kind of short for carbon zero. Originally, it was the sort of almost a visual play on words rather than CO2. It was CZERO. And we improved our trademark slightly since we first made it in SolidWorks. But it really is trying to embrace that. We are, again, trying to work on change that is going to really have a positive impact on climate and do it in a way that is economically viable and scalable and not asking people to make sacrifices, but really just embrace that need for a reduction in CO2 and other harmful emissions.
Catchy name. I think it's great. So you have a PhD and a strong academic background. How did that technical foundation shape your entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, I don't know that really affected. I've always sort of had maybe a little entrepreneurial bent, from the lemonade stand as a little kid to starting a kayak company while I was supposed to be doing my PhD as a little side project. So I've always sort of had that little bent, and this was a way that we could try to really push what we were trying to do, but also have the ability to control how that was done, right? So that's, I think, really a big part of starting the company is to have that control over how it operates, what it operates on, and things like that.
So in your academic career, were you focused on clean energy?
Not specifically. I was focused on engineering that would enable me to do that. But, as you know, engineering can be the same skills can be applied to a lot of different things. So while I was working on it, I guess I was working on reducing engine emissions. That's really what my PhD was on, modeling and controls tools that would allow you to do that. But more of the focus was on those tools at that time.
Okay, all right. So CZERO is known for working on early stage concept to prototype development. What does that process look like from a client's first idea to a working model?
Sure. Yeah, so as you said, we focus more on the early stage, a lot of times called low TRL, technology readiness level, sorry. Um, More on those earlier stages, although we do take things all the way to production. But what does that process look like? It's really, we are here to help our clients develop their technology. So we don't have any technology that we're trying to put into production or any products, but we're trying to make our clients help them with the development of their product, make them better behind the scenes. So we tend to bolt on to companies that can be large companies that people here would recognize the names on, right down to startups. Right, a big part of our focus is working with early stage companies and helping them round out their team, whether that is acting as a virtual engineering team or just providing a little bit of a service along the way. We just kind of try to act like we're part of their engineering team and help make their problems go away and help them grow their team and build it from there.
All right. And so are you participating in fleshing out the concept at the beginning? Like really making your clients' ideas more tangible?
Very definitely. We get involved. I mean, the favorite projects that everyone here really likes is when somebody comes to us with a need and we don't even know how we're going to get there, right? Those are absolutely the funnest, the ones we like to do the most, where we can get involved with a customer or ourselves and start concepting. So you have to define what you're really trying to accomplish. What are the constraints? Sometimes those are a little squishier. Sometimes they're very hardly defined. And from there, we do we're a very analysis-led company, right? We're not the type of company that waves our thumb in the air and say, let's make it this big. Most everything we make, we have a pretty good understanding of how that's going to operate before we ever cut hardware. So we model things, we simulate it, we get very involved in the finances up front. We do a lot of techno-economic analysis. A lot of engineering ideas will actually work from an engineering standpoint, but they won't be economically viable. So they really don't have an ability to scale. So we'll use those tools early on. And so it's a little bit of a combination of the mad scientists and coming up with crazy ideas, but then trying to use a disciplined engineering process that much larger companies might have, and nimbly put those two together to quickly vet out a lot of different ideas, see how they're going to operate, work with a client to make sure that as we're starting to narrow down that our solution or proposed solution is really going to accomplish what they want. Once we've narrowed that architecture down, then we'll do the detailed design and all the analysis. We can get parts made either in-house or out-of-house. We can put them together, build them, test them, and go basically napkin sketch to working prototype, or anywhere in between. Sometimes we work with companies that just need a particular skill set we have. They may not have a controls group, so we can act as their controls group. So it's sort of anywhere from full idea to build to just helping out.
Okay. And I hear there's a lot of versatility in there too. You have the ability to be nimble and responsive to their needs. And I hear a lot of creativity as well.
Yeah, absolutely, right. I mean, again, our job is to make our client's job easier, right? And I just beat it into our engineers relentlessly, right? No homework to the clients, but how do we take their problems and help them, whatever that looks like, right? Whether it's just really doing some pretty basic engineering because they're short on bandwidth, or maybe they don't have a skill set, anywhere in between.
And your team touches on a wide variety of energy sources. You work with everything from renewables to fossil fuels and uses like transportation and industrial systems. Can you share a few examples of projects that really excite you or reflect your impact?
Yeah. Yeah. First, maybe I'll address the breadth, right? That it is, even to me looking back, so I think in our 18th year at this point, we've done over 400 projects, which is even sort of amazing to us to look back on. And we do cover a wide variety, right? We are just as likely to work on renewables as we are working traditional oil and gas on the production side. On the consumption side, our roots are really automotive, heavy truck transportation. We still do a lot of work in that area. But now there's a lot of work with electrification, and then even things like industrial heat and process heat. So it is a wide variety of projects we work on, but it's the same analysis-led discipline design, right? So it's not that we have to relearn things. It's more taking this team that I would argue is a well-oiled team that has worked together for long periods of time. Some of us have worked together, my gosh, approaching over 30 years. So we know how to work together. We know the strengths and weaknesses of the team, and how do we put that same process to address a wide variety of problems. So then you asked about some of my, maybe some good example projects and some that are interesting and exciting to me. A project right now, we're working with a company called Redox Blocks. They're, I'm guessing, a 4 or 5 year old company they're working on industrial heat and long duration storage with thermochemical storage. Everyone thinks about batteries for storage, and there's other ways of doing storage, but this has real tremendous potential for long duration energy storage. So that's an example where we partnered with them. We're doing a large project for the California Energy Commission. They're working on their core expertise. We're working on particular system integration for a particular application on this project. So that's a super fun one. Also, another company we worked with, that was a great example of another startup. It's a company called CalWave. They're doing wave harvesting. So they harvest the energy in waves. If you really think about it, sort of wave power, concentrated wind. Wind is concentrated solar. Tremendous amount of power in waves. And we started working with them with really just a couple of people there. They've done an amazing demonstration project. They had something deployed for almost 10 months with very, very little issues, great performance, and we helped them some key aspects of that engineering. Have worked with them for a long time. Other projects, we work with the Department of Defense. We're helping on electrification was really big item for up to the last couple of years. And we've helped with making high efficiency portable electric vehicle rechargers that you could actually use in theater and stuff like that. And a bunch of other DOE projects. So yeah, I can go on forever.
Wow, that must really keep you on your toes and really engaged, always thinking ahead and solving new problems. So with all of this technology, how do you stay technology agnostic while also staying true to your North Star of sustainability and emissions reduction?
Yeah, I get asked that question from time to time, and it really, it's just not that hard, right? I think, again, people can understand if you can make a wave harvester, right? That's very clean energy. That's very, very quick to understand how that's offsetting burning coal. But at the same time, if we can help with flare gas recovery in traditional oil and gas, or help reduce the likelihood you'll have a disaster by making blow-up preventers more reliable. If you can find areas to reduce the amount of methane leaking into the air, is a big problem just in production of natural gas. So we are big believers that at the end of the day, you're going to have all energy sources, right? We are still going to have needs for oil and gas and all these things. So we're not in the business of trying to say you shouldn't use oil and gas. We're just trying to say use the right tool for the right job and make oil and gas as clean and as efficient as you can. And for me, the real wins is when you can create a product I'd love to say a product or a way of doing business that is cleaner and more efficient, that costs the same or less than what you do. That's what we always strive for. We're not asking our clients or asking the general public to do without, right? I think that's a recipe for failure. So rather than ask people to change their behavior, if we can help our clients develop technology that is transparent to them. They don't know it's any different. Or maybe that's even better. They like it. They like the performance of this new product, and it actually has less emissions or costs and costs the same or less. That's how things scale. And that's what we really, really strive for. Those are the wins.
Yeah, making new technology affordable, that's one of the biggest hurdles.
Sure.
It always comes down to costs. And you mentioned methane leakage, for
Absolutely.
example, and carbon capture and storage. What are some of the biggest technical or business challenges you can see in today's clean energy transition, other than just the costs?
I hate to go here, but I think one of the biggest things is how politicized the energy sector is right now, right? I understand there's industries that, are that want to protect the industry they have right now, but energy has become just horribly politicized right now. And I think at the end of the day, most people want to have inexpensive, affordable energy, which I think renewables offer, and I think and I think we all want clean air, right, and clean water, right? So we all want the same thing, and it's just unfortunately there's a lot of politicization. I said that right, and or if it's even a word. But there's a lot of politics in it. There's and it's just unfortunate because there's a lot of opportunity here if we just all kind of work together and pull on the rope in the same direction. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, unfortunately.
We're all living in the same world, breathing the same air. So ultimately, creating a world that has clean air for our children and grandchildren and beyond is the ultimate goal for everyone.
Right.
CZERO operates in a space that requires vision and rigor. What qualities do you look for in partners, clients, and team members who want to innovate in the energy sector?
Yeah, so we're a highly collaborative company, and we sort of look for that in our partners, right? We are glad if a client is just so busy they don't have the time and they just literally need to over the fences. We're glad to do that and take it on. But the things that are really exciting is when we can bolt onto them and really sort of become one with them and an extension of them. So I think collaborative, really open-minded, smart. Our team. I'm going to brag on my team, but it's just a really awesome team. There's just a bunch of great people that are really humble, which is, despite their credentials and some of their accomplishments, they don't have any need to be, but they're just great to work with, and that's we look for people like that in our clients, right? We'll work around however our client wants to operate, but we really like the engineers who just want to roll up their sleeves, put their ego on a shelf, and how do we solve the problem? We don't care if it's your idea or our idea. How do we work together and just put together just some great engineering and execute on it and deliver a great product? And that's the win for us.
Great. So I'm hearing a lot of synergy and teamwork. You're all working together towards the same goal. And all in all, just being a contribution and building on each other's ideas.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. Not a contest, right? We're not trying to have a contest with our clients. We're like, how do we fill in any gaps they have? A lot of times it's just manpower, right? There's just simply, we're all stretched thin and overloaded. So sometimes we're just helping a gap there every now and then. It's typically smaller companies. They may not be able to afford the software we have or have the need to have somebody full time with the expertise we have, so we can come in, take care of a need and move on. But yeah, it's all about working together.
A lot of companies do struggle with moving from idea to implementation. So being able to come in and provide that additional manpower and source of solutions, I think is paramount. How does your team work to bridge that infamous valley of death in tech commercialization?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of two extremes I think about it, right? You have a very early stage, sometimes, the quintessential founder who's this crazy mad scientist who comes up with these ideas, but sometimes those people are very good at idea generation, but not necessarily the best at executing, and they may not have the skill sets and the tools to execute, right? The other extreme, you have larger companies that have very, very well developed processes to make sure everything's going to work and everything. But just the very nature of that sometimes makes them not as nimble. So we try to fit right in the middle. So we are very nimble, right? We're roughly 30 people plus minus. We can react very quickly. We have a great tool set. A great team with a lot of experience. Yet for a company of 30 people, we're pretty disciplined, right? We have some very rigorous processes we follow. So we would argue we give the client the best of both worlds, right? So we're not just waving our thumb in the air. We're not, being loose. We are crossing our T's and dotting our I's and make sure we're checking this. We have a pretty rigorous QA process. We do that, but we can do it quickly. So we combine the best of both worlds so we can work with and leverage those early stage ideas, or if that's a gap they have where they don't have as much of that, we can provide that and fold that into the big company.
What trends or opportunities are you watching most closely these days in R&D?
Yeah.
What's new and what do you see evolving in the next few years?
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch some things that were cutting edge and early stage are becoming more mainstream now. That's just an evolution, and that's been great. But there are some things that look pretty promising. There's a lot of work going on in geothermal right now that I think that is really going to be a big contributor coming on in the next few years. That's probably I think they're going to be the fastest growing sectors in a while. The other trend that we all have to address is we all love AI and machine learning, or well, I guess I shouldn't say we all love it, but we're consuming it at enormous rates. And so the need for data centers is huge. Everyone's talking about it. It may be that we don't need as much energy as we're predicting, because I'm optimistic and hopefully people are going to figure out algorithms and do that a little bit more efficiently. But there's absolutely no doubt we're going to need a lot more energy in the coming years. And so that is an opportunity and a challenge. How do we add power and do it in a way that we don't bring on a lot of assets that are really not as clean, as efficient as they could be? So it's a big tug of war between that need and the ability to add a lot of power quickly.
Right, because I know sometimes the solutions, for example, with carbon capture, say, it costs as much to build the systems that are capturing the carbon, so they end up consuming a lot of energy. And to that effect, is it helping more than it's contributing back into the system? So, right, being cost efficient and really making the impact that each solution is intended to.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the wave capture system that you mentioned earlier. Are you able to capture energy from waves in a way that's energy efficient?
Yeah, the efficiency is typically not the problem with wave energy, right? You have, if you think about it, it's clearly not infinite, but there's just, there's a lot of power in waves, right? The challenge in wave harvesting is that you have to design a mechanism that can survive that 100-year storm, right? Or whatever it is. And offshore is tremendously rough environment. We've worked on subsea well control and have done offshore, and until you get out there and experience it, you just really don't understand. People try to tell you, but until you understand how harsh the offshore environment is, it's an eye opener, right? So you have to design things for that. And actually, the company we're working, CalWave, I think one of their hallmarks or innovation is a way to minimize how much over designing you need to do. They have a way of protecting their system when the weather gets really rough, which I think is really innovative and clever. So that is going to reduce the cost. And the cost is really one of the biggest barriers in wave energy. It's just how rough and extreme you have to build everything.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye on that one. That's super interesting. So let's just shift now to your vision and leadership. As a leader and innovator, how do you define success, not just for CZERO, but for the broader energy landscape?
At the end of the day, for the broader landscape, is that you're moving the ball forward, right? By virtue of working on a lot of very early stage technologies, they don't all make it, right? We, in a perfect world, everything we touch becomes this great product or addition or change that really makes everything better. But often we don't always, it doesn't always pan out as well. And it's almost always economics that kill it, right? Very few projects we've worked on can we not find a technical solution? But it's, can you find a technical solution that actually is going to make a business change, right? So maybe a little bit of a sidebar. We work really hard to do techno-economic analyses early. We encourage our clients to make sure, especially startups, that they have a path to commercial success. So we'll look at those economics early on, and we do that for other companies as well. But there are projects where we may move the cost down, sometimes even orders of magnitude, but that's still not enough. But we feel good about those because there may be another change that comes on in a few more years that now changes those economics. And, so there's projects now that are economically viable that weren't earlier. So, again, we really like the ones where we can, point and say, look at this, we're saving, umpteen tons of carbon dioxide a day, or we're having this much more efficiency. But just developing that technology and having that ready for the next enabler to allow it is also very, important for success.
Yeah. So you're waiting for the technology to catch up with itself so the costs go down and you can get it, right?
Yeah. So many factors can go into that, right? And there's things that the entire industry, does their best to try to predict where things will be. I don't think anyone anticipated how much solar cells would come down. Their costs came down way faster than people anticipated. Battery costs are coming down, at rates people didn't anticipate. And you look at adoption levels are not necessarily where people anticipated. So we do our best to predict, but none of us have a crystal.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs or engineers who want to make a meaningful impact in sustainable tech?
Maybe I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I'm a big believer in don't ask people to change their behavior, right? Try to find a solution that is transparent. It's great if people change their behavior, and I think it's good we do, but if you really want something to scale, you just got to give people as good or better performance for the same cost or less. So look for that. Look to make sure the numbers are going to pan out early. There's the obvious. Make sure you're not a solution looking for a problem. Make sure you really are addressing that problem. And then get your game plan together, and then dig in hard and be ready to be agile. Right? You are continually learning, and then understand the concept of sunk cost. It's sometimes if that horse isn't gonna, if that's not gonna go, it's better to pivot and get onto something that's gonna get you where you need to be versus the sunk costs.
Right. Yeah. So it's just being able to be nimble, flexible, right, and willing to change course if you see something isn't viable or economically sound. And who would be an ideal client for you?
Yeah. We just have so many great clients. First of all, I really, life's short, so we want to make sure that we think we're going to be able to work with our clients, right? So not everyone's, we're probably not the right fit for everyone. Some clients aren't the right fit for us, so we really want to work with people that are good to work with, right? So again, really, we just like smart, open-minded people. That we can work with. Life's short. There's just no reason to work with people if there's a lot of friction or.
So people who are positive, open-minded, and who are really intent on solving problems.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we do a lot of work with early stage companies. We really like partnering with the early stage companies, and again, there's just a lot of smart people out there, and they're doing some great things using some great disciplined approach. I mean, those are the ones we work well with. Quite frankly, the mad inventor who wants to change things every other day, that's a little harder for us. We are very analysis led, and sometimes people review that, interpret that as slow. It doesn't. We have the ability to model stuff very, very quickly, much quicker than you can build stuff. So the people that are open to using the modern tools to really understand it, to look at the data, we're incredibly data driven, right? Sure, you have to use your intuition a little, but the intuition should be backed up by data, both in informing each other. So those are clients we like to work with.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the advantage of being a PhD as the co-founder of the company too, is that you remain unbiased, extremely open to possibilities, and you're constantly looking at the data, looking for evidence-based solutions. Like you let the information speak for itself and not get too set on a particular solution, the processes or what you want to see. It's really just about what's actually there.
Yeah, and I think we do. I think the team does a great job of that, right? We have a testimonial. We actually have a lot of great testimonials from our clients, but one of the ones I really like is our background historically is hydraulics, right? That's where we came from. We built some of the fastest hydraulic valves in the world, and have done some really innovative things in there in our backgrounds. And so we've had people come to us. We just finished a case recently, and then a few years ago came to us looking to do a hydraulic solution, and we went through and did the analysis of math and said, look, you should be doing this with electrics, right? Well, one case was a mechanical. It didn't even need to be electrical or hydraulic. We came up with a linkage that you could have designed 200 or 300 years ago that was actually much more efficient and than our hydraulics. And then a similar case on a recent project for aircraft. We were looking at hydraulics, which is really our bread and butter. But an electrified solution was really much better, so we're helping him with that one. So we try to be really, unbiased and let the data speak.
Now, lastly, if CZERO's legacy could be summarized, what would you say? In one sentence, how would you want to summarize your legacy?
I'm going to break your one sentence rule.
That's okay.
My visceral response is I don't really care about the legacy, right? And maybe that sounds weird, right? Obviously, I want, it's important to me that CZERO is well respected, right? And I think it's important to the team and everything, but it's, I don't know. It's certainly not about, Chris and my legacy and maybe, but I guess, if people remember CZERO is that, we actually made a difference, right? We're probably not going to be the inventors of cold fusion. We're not, we're almost always behind the scenes. So everyone will probably never know our name, and that's okay, right? But if we as a company can help those names that you do recognize, make things cleaner and better, and we move the needle, and the place is even slightly a little better place than it was before, that's what's important to us. And that's what drives it. I mean, we are an incredibly mission-driven company, and the people that are in this company, they could go get other jobs, they could be doing other things, but they are passionate about what they do, and what we work on is important to them, and how we do it and the people we go, that's really important to us.
That's great. Being one of the solid blocks in the foundation of something that's shaping the future.
Absolutely, right. It's not about us, it's about the outcome, right?
What is your mission, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, it's just to leave this planet a little bit better than we came to it, right? And that's by reducing energy consumption or emissions, right? And we don't care where that comes from, whether that, again, whether it's traditional oil and gas, whether that's a vehicle, whether that's a plane, whether that's, the beer you drink, the steel you need, wherever we can affect change, that's what we're about.
I hear the passion and commitment in your voice, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's great. And yeah, if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. It's enjoyment. It's living your passion.
I've had more fun the last 20 years of my career. It's just awesome. We get to work with some of the best and smartest people, hardworking people. We're continually learning about new technologies. It's an absolute blast. And I just work with such a great team. Super fun.
Well, Guy, thank you so much for sharing your insight and your journey and your vision with us today.
Thank you for the time.
It's really inspiring to see what a company like CZERO is taking on in the energy space. To our listeners, if you want to learn more about Guy and his team's incredible work at CZERO, you can visit their website, which is czero-solutions.com. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode. So until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting change in your industry. Thank you.